I now give the floor to Iñigo Mendez, the head of planning and approval delivery unit at ERA, who will talk about the authority activities of the agency. Please, Iñigo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Cyril. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for staying tuned for another 10 minutes for having a look to the authority task. I think you have heard already some highlights from our director and some mentioned by Pio as well. But I want to show to you some slides with some numbers and maybe to have a better understanding on how we manage all this workload that we need to cope with. So I will share right now my slides. Okay, so let's start with maybe some overview of how this work is organized in the agency. Very quickly, we have a unit in the European Union Agency for Railways entirely dedicated to the authority task. We also have a part for project management office, a kind of PMO, that we call portfolio management and support. But today, this afternoon, is about only the authority teams. Then we have three domains very clearly defined in the railway package and by the directive, which are the vehicle authorization team, the single safety certificate team, and the EURTMS trackside approval team. We have then another team that takes care of the one-stop shop. This is our main tool for delivering all the authorization certificates and approvals. It's basically a web-based tool, and I will mention some more details in my next slide. So what we do is to play the role that is allocated to the agency by the directive. And vehicle authorization, we are the authorizing entity for vehicles and types that are intended for use in more than one member state. However, there's also the possibility for the applicants, being them manufacturers or operators, or to apply also to the agency, even if their vehicles or types are intended to be operated in only one member state. So it's their right to apply to us. For the single safety certificates, we are the certifying authority. And basically, we work with railway undertakings, operators, and they provide as an evidence that they have successfully implemented their safety management systems. Basically, the logic is the same as for the vehicles, meaning that if the operator is intending to cross borders, they need to come to the agency to get the safety certificate, but they can still make the same choice, even if they only operate in one single member state. For the EURTMS trackside approval, we have a role very, very early in the process, really even at the tendering and early definition of the trackside of the infrastructure projects for EURTMS, and we perform an evaluation of, let's say, to say it in simple words, the level of interoperability or how the projects are tackling known issues in the implementation of the EURTMS requirements before they proceed with the next steps in the implementation of the project. Then on the one-stop shop, just for those maybe they are not that familiar with this, as I said before, this is the single entry point through which we are managing all applications. These include some services we offer to our applicants. It's important to understand that this tool is available to us, the European agency, but also to the national safety authorities. So there is a fully electronic entry point in all EU languages. We store all information in a secure manner for 15 years as a minimum. We have some facilities for disaster recoveries, cybersecurity, backup, access all year round, as many users as we have. We have to provide access to them. And we also have a help desk that need to support our applicants and NSAs in a matter of 10 working days. Then we also offer trainings for applicants and NSAs. I give some detail because later on I will talk a little bit about what we expect for the one-stop shop in 2022. The access is via our website, but you need to be registered. Don't try to click it will not work unless you have a registered user. Then coming back a little bit to the work we have done so far, I think our director presented some highlights earlier. That here you see a little bit in very simple charts how the number of applications is ramping still. So we started all the process in June 2019. Then there was a period for transposition of member states, but 2021 was the first full year with all member states with the legal framework transposed. And then it can give an indication of the level of workload that we could expect in the coming years. Still, we are very cautious because we see that the trend is that we receive more and more applications. So during 2021, still, if we saw a detail, we will see that the number of applications are still going up. So it's possible still that 2022 will see bigger numbers. But you see here the order of magnitude that we are managing. So around 1,200, even 1,400, I would say, decisions per year. We are authorizing around nowadays 14,000 vehicles a year. The big majority are freight wagons, but of course not only. And I have to say that we have a growing number also of one single member state authorizations delivered. On single safety certificates, something similar. You see that the numbers are going up. Last year we delivered 40 of them. And well, this we need to observe and to be prepared. But again, we also see that some companies that are regional or local operators, they are coming to us to get their single safety certificate. On TechSite approval, this is a much longer term process, and we are now have delivered the first 2 approvals in 2021, but we have a backlog of 70 applications to process. So this is a little bit unstable still, so it's possible that we receive big numbers in 2022. This is how we stand today. I think these figures were mentioned by the director earlier, but then you can have a closer look. So you see that we are now, since the origin, in a little bit more than 30,000 vehicles and 2,600 decisions. We have 100 projects ongoing. This is more or less constant now. So we have projects coming in and projects coming out. And we have around that figure of permanent workload. On single safety certificates, we are, well, this change every week. So I think we are now at 70 delivered, and we have a number of ongoing projects as well. It should be a little bit more than 40. And for TechSite approval, as I mentioned, we have 70 around ongoing and 2 delivered. In terms of 2022, what should we expect? Well, for now, we made planning as carefully as we can. We need to understand, and as I explained you before, that this environment is changing at any time, because there is absolute right from the applicants to apply to us. We cannot say, okay, wait a couple of months to lock your application. We need to manage it and process it. So we based this forecast in the information we get from the applicants. This is very important for us to get as early as possible information from the applicants or their intentions to come to us. And also on what we observe as statistics in the previous years. So we expect to remain quite close to the level that we had in 2021. Probably a vehicle authorization can go slightly up, around 10% up. But for single safety certificates and approvals, we expect to stay in the same levels. This, as mentioned before, also today, is really challenging for us because, as you see, managing fluctuating workload is not easy. We have a level of rigidity, of course, as a public body, so we need to adapt quickly and be very agile. And I think this has been demonstrated so far by the agency teams that we are able to do to maintain the commitment and the legal obligation to deliver in the legal deadlines. The legal deadlines, to give you an indication, is 5 months, so one for an initial screening of the application, 1 month and 4 more for the assessment. This is for vehicle authorizations and single safety certificates. Instead, for conformity to type applications, so in which we deliver authorizations for placing on the market of railway vehicles, we need to deliver in 1 month. But indeed, we are just doing it in 5 working days as an average. Trackside approval is a specific case because those are, as I mentioned, very long-term projects, and then the deadlines are not that relevant. Okay, then in terms of some key elements to show to you this afternoon that we expect for the authority task in 2022. Well, as mentioned by the director, first of all, is to have a consolidation of our task. You see that they are rather new. The teams were assembled really in 18. We are still receiving newcomers to the agency to join the teams. So that means that we need a certain level of consolidation. This is very challenging because we observe that we need the same resources for the authority task that we need for the policy task. So all those activities that were described by VP or Guido are using the same resources as the activities that I just described. And this is a permanent need to plan, negotiate, decide, and set priorities. This is one of our main challenges in the agency. I want to say that also in terms of resources that we count also with the help of the national safety authorities through a mechanism that is called pool of experts, in which they put their resources, their experts, to work with us and work on our behalf. But this, of course, is proving to be very difficult because they have their own resource limitations. Then if we look by domain, we see that for trackside approval, we need to see, because as mentioned before, also the evolution and the pandemic situation and the repercussion in the, let's say, the financial health of the member states will have a big impact on what we see arriving to us through the one-stop shop. But we have an indication that the COVID recovery funds could accelerate the IRTMS deployment, the trackside deployment, and that would mean for sure that we will see an increased number of applications to get their approvals. In terms of vehicle authorization, we see also more and more retrofitting programs. These could include the onboard IRTMS part, being ETCS or GSMR. And this is also a huge challenge for, first of all, for the applicants, for the operators, that they need to get the vehicles out for a retrofitting and then put them back on track as soon as they can. And in the meantime, maybe they need to get an authorization from us or from the National Safety Authority. Here again, a key element would be very good planning, very good preparation by the applicant of their program, contacting us well in advance so that we can also plan our resources and then work all together for the success of the retrofitting projects. We also need to see the impact of the TSA package that Pio explained earlier. Of course, this will have an impact on the baseline and the authorization strategy of the industry and of the sector. So, well, we need to see. We're not able to tell what it will be, but we need to see. It could be that some authorizations are anticipated, or maybe some are delayed, or we need to see the impact. But for sure, we consider this as a key element for this year. In terms of single safety certificates, we expect to see an increase of SSC demands. There are some factors around, like maybe an increase cross-border operation, like say coming from, say, the initiative to support the return of the night services that are mostly cross-border services. So this could imply the need to come to the agency, and also new entrants. So if the economy grows, if the rail grows, of course, we see it coming to us in the three domains. And then last bit of highlights for this year is the evolution in the one-stop shop. We will launch this year, despite the difficulties to find budget and resources, but we managed to reserve some resources to start a pilot on linked data, in which we will try to explore the possibility to connect our platform that we use for the authority tasks with the registers that are managed by the agency as well. There is a high potential here. We believe we can simplify the process, lean it, remove errors, and automate to a certain extent. But for this, we need to move from a system in which we have a repository of documents. They are digitalized, but they are documents, to a system in which we are able to connect data. So the machine should be able to read data in the one-stop shop and in the registers and connect both. And this ends the overview of the authority task. I will stop presenting and
many thanks,
go back to
Iñigo.
Cyril. Thanks.
Many thanks. Time is flying, and we are now reaching the question and answer part of this webinar. So as you may have seen, we've been replying in the chat live to your questions. So thanks a lot for all your questions. I would like now to ask a question myself to Philippe Citroën, the Director General of UNIFE, the European Rail Supply Industry Association. Dear Philippe, after you've heard the statements by the agency, how does the sector see the role and contribution of ERA? Please, Philippe.
Well, thank you. I would like to thank you for inviting me. But I think that, first of all, 2022 will be another very important year for the railway sector, not least with the conclusion of the 2022 TSI's package and the kickoff of the joint undertaking Europe's Rail. And you know that 2022 will also very important with the implementation of a sustainable and smart mobility strategy. We have what they call the winter package, with the revision of the TEN-T's regulation when RTMS will be deployed, and the implementation of the National Recovery Plan. I heard about this. You have to note in the National Recovery Plan there will be 55 billion euros for rail, and I hope a big part of this will go in the RTMS deployment. We just saw in Italy they launched 2.9 billion of a tender for RTMS deployment. Then what I can say when I listen to the presentation is that ERA has played an important role for the European railway sector in setting the technical framework for interoperability and safety since its establishment in 2004. Most notably in the development of the TSIs and the common safety method. This role was further enhanced in recent years with the technical pillar of the fourth railway package, with ERA becoming a true European authority with the goal of completing the single European railway area. What I wanted to say is that on our side, we do not yet experience all the benefits in terms of reduced time and understood the pressure that you have and on cost for the vehicle authorization process, the implementation of the technical pillar of the fourth railway package. But that's my message. We expect a real change in 2022 as we are coming to the end of the learning curve for ERA and for the rail sector. Now I have two things to say. I must stress first UNIFE's concern regarding the negative impact of the current regulatory instability that has on rail projects and the subsequent risk on the economic viability of long-term investments in the sector. And that's what I like to say, because I have the opportunity to be there, is that we would like to ask ERA and the European Commission to carefully consider the economic impact of all changes in the TSIs and plan for the sufficient transition rules in line with rail project and asset life cycles. Moreover, we expect that the implementation of the system pillar in Europe's rail joint undertaking will contribute to the regulatory stability and will ensure predictability regarding potential future TSIs revisions, and we count on ERA, of course. But only together can we ensure that EU rail sector can increase its attractiveness and the EU rail supply industry can increase its competitiveness both in Europe and globally. And I want to say this is certainly what I want to insist on is that we really need to make sure that ERA has the adequate resources for the future, and we recall on the European Commission to increase ERA budget. But we also, I would like also to point out to the need of raising awareness at the capitals, highlighting why ERA needs a strong budget which will benefit to the whole rail sector, notably to act as an efficient authority with particular regard to the implementation of the fourth railway package, to provide additional support for TEN-T's completion objectives, notably the European Rail Traffic Management System and cross-border section. So on my side, that's what I wanted to say, answering to all the questions and to the remarks that you made. We count on ERA and we know that the 2022 will be very important year. We hope that the budget will be increased in the next years, and we have this issue on regulatory stability, but we already had quite a lot of discussions with the agency and you. And I would like to thank you for having invited me to this presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Philippe. Thank you very much. We are running late and we apologize for that. We are now reaching the end of this webinar. First, let me thank warmly all of our speakers and all the colleagues involved in the preparation of this event. Thank you for your attendance and participation, dear attendees. Before you go, we would be very happy to receive your feedback on this webinar via the link provided on the webinar webpage on the ERA website, or via the QR code you're about to see on the screen and that you can flash with your smartphone. We look forward to meeting you again at our upcoming webinar on the 23rd of February on a very important topic for the agency and the sector, the TSI's revision. In the meantime, if you would like to stay updated on our activities, please sign into our database by selecting the button Login on our website page. Thank you very much for participating. We wish you a very pleasant evening. Take care.